Okay. Okay. Well, um, I'm Grace Fantaroni, and I got introduced to these lovely people. I was just remembering with Therese. I taught her son 20 years ago. I had Terrence. It's almost 20 years ago. This fall will be 20 years, which is making me feel old. But he was in third, fourth, and fifth grade. I had him, and I met him when they first moved down here from Seattle. Seattle, right? Washington.
We had it's circuitous, but basically, Terrence was born in San Diego, but then we moved a lot because his dad worked in IT. So we had just come from Silicon Valley when we moved back to San
Oh,
Diego.
that's right. Okay.
Yeah, but we had lived in Seattle for a few years. You're right.
Terrence talked about that. That's in my head. So anyway, so I fell in love with him because he's just the coolest kid, and fell in love with his mom because she's just the most amazing, super warrior mom out there. And later, gosh, many years ago, um, they got in touch with me because someone found Terrence, kind of discovered her son and his amazing music ability and wanted to make a documentary. Um, so that's kind of how all of this started. Let's see here. So a great documentary came out a couple years ago, Bass Clef List, Terrence's Path. And you can see Terrence right here in the black playing the trombone. That is his instrument. And so we started sharing this documentary, and it just kind of gives the highs and the lows and the struggles and the joy he found in music. So as we were kind of sharing this all over the community, and then kind of started going across the United States, even the California Teachers Association a couple years ago had us come up to LA. We did it for all the teachers there, and then they actually wanted to screen the film for 3 different high schools. So um, there was a big road trip. Therese was part of that, and went 3,000 high school students over a 3-day period in Santa Maria Unified School District. And I'm sorry, I'm canceling. I'm sorry, I forgot Dr. Fader here. So Dr. Josh Fader got invited to speak in the documentary as well because he's very well known in the autism community in San Diego. And so we've been kind of a little just group hanging out, trying to, share as much information as we can about Terrence and, all of the good things that this documentary does. Um, and so while we were kind of screening at the CTA and kind of around, people started asking, do you have curriculum? Do you have something that goes along with this? Because this is a great documentary and you could show it in the schools, but what can we do with it? And so we've been invited a couple different places, and then Therese and I actually got to present um, some research that was conducted on this in curriculum over at the CEC and the Division of Autism and Developmental Disorders International Conference last January, right before everything went down. And so we've been around a little bit, and again, people have just been asking, like, do you have curriculum? Like, what does it look like? So that's kind of the why we got excited about sharing more information about what autism is, um, and inclusion. And we realize 1 in 20 children have a disability, and that gives 19 kids a daily opportunity to learn about diversity, collaboration, inclusion, and friendship. So that was, we started looking at, well, what do we need to share with our peers? And pre or after I was Terrence's teacher, I was a autism behavior support teacher in one of the large districts around here. And I was asked a lot to come in and do kind of like awareness trainings or sensitivity trainings. And I did them all from K to 12. And kids, of course, different ages had different questions. But what I noticed really worked was just relating it to themselves, just making it understandable in a very easy way. For example, yes, let's say Terrence was scared of loud noises. Well, we all get scared of loud noises sometimes, right? So just kind of like breaking it down and sharing a little bit of that. And so that's what we decided to do then with this. So we actually got to film and do kind of stills so you can see, like a little scenario. We came up with a lot of the most common scenarios, with kids with autism. So sensory, communication, friendships, loud noises, right? The senses and the sensitivity to senses. So we went through a whole bunch of different kind of topic areas that we realize, are very a part of autism, but also can be a little bit different, to just typical peers. And so we started coming up with just scenarios and questions. And I also realized that, especially in schools, there's never enough time to teach anything. And so I didn't want to create a curriculum that you had to go from the beginning to the end. And it was a lot of work, because I wanted to make this make sense for, all teacher, anyone. I want someone who's a French and history teacher to be able to pick this up and do it. If they have a kid in their class that, kids are kind of wondering about, or seeming like they're not fitting in, I want to use what that is as an area to support learning. And my big saying is peers are always scared of what they don't know. We're all scared of what we don't know, but when you explain it, it makes sense. And peers are the ones that are going to follow our kids, our kids with autism and all their special needs. The teachers are going to be there for a year or two, well, maybe 20 years. Sorry, I hung around. But I don't supervise Terrence, but he has a whole bunch of friends in the community that's amazing and supporting him. So, peers are really, they're that's our big focus with this, is really getting them to understand and then accept. And so we've kind of even broadened this. I mean, we do a lot about inclusion and cultural diversity. There's just a lot that you can pull out of this, but ultimately it's awareness, understanding, and creating friendships. So then we aligned it with the Common Core standards, because you can't do anything without the standards in any kind of schools, right? And then it was submitted to the California Department of Education, and it was approved as a social and emotional curriculum. So we have some good backing in it. And so, like I said, we have video scenarios from actually 3 different films. So a lot of it we used with Terrence, but the director on here actually has 2 other short films about autism. And so we're pulling from all 3 and getting to use that. So here's an example. This was, we named it Steps to Success. And this is actually from the documentary. And so I have kind of here, like, what is it related to autism about? And it's rigidity, getting very stuck on certain things, and fear of new experiences. So of course I have the standards, and then we have just like little guidance, like here's display the photos from the scenario, and then here's some of the, class discussions. And again, they can be altered or whatever compared to, the age group that, they're just suggestions. But let me just show you the film for a minute, or just a little clip of this.
It's those individual stories and those individual triumphs that are inspiring.
Terrence overcoming his fear of going up and downstairs is similar to someone who's afraid of the dark. I knew that when he lost his fear of going up and downstairs, he gained confidence in himself. Then he could get on a bus, go to school, the little things that we all take for granted.
So that's just a little snippet of it. But, you know, we're sharing, you know, what's going on here? Why is he scared? Why would he be scared of steps? You know, what are you afraid of something? So let me go back to the presentation. And so, you know, you can start it off with just easy stuff like what's happening. So we actually have pictures then that go along with the video format. And again, you can use the format in any, or the videos in any order. There's not a particular order. So if there's, you know, a concern that's really, you know, pertinent to your classroom or to the students that are in there, you can jump right to this. And so we have some just, you know, guided, you know, beginning questions. And then we get into, you know, well, do you ever get afraid? And there's some answers we can talk about. Do you not understand what's expected? Does something feel weird sometimes? You know, and then what do you do when you're afraid? So it's got some social emotional kind of learning here. And then, you know, who or what helps you accomplish something that's scary or unfamiliar. And I gave some responses, possible responses, but again, this can go however it flows in the classroom. And then we just get into, okay, well, back to the photos. Well, what helped Terrence? How could you help Terrence? You know, and then, you know, are there things you could help him with, like, you know, positive behavior, like trying to say like, hey, I'm scared, you know, I can ask for help. Like, here are some things you can do. And then we have a whole bunch of follow activities. So you could have the students draw a calming picture or, you know, develop a response team of students that can help in the classroom. And that's really, especially in high school, it's really neat to see the kids that step up and love to work with, you know, like I know there's some peer buddy programs and stuff out there, and you get like the football players and the, you know, the cool cheerleaders, and they're all coming in and working with the kids. So it's really neat. So you could get up to that. You could talk about a response team or even supports, like what are other things you can do. So have a classmate who can, you know, remind the student about appropriate behaviors. So this can go on, you know, however it needs to. And so we were lucky enough that UCSD got excited about it. And we actually did they did a whole study on it. So they looked at 9 teachers in 11 different classrooms in 3 different districts, and they were implementing the Autism Is curriculum. And these were not special ed teachers. They were English teacher. I think we had a math teacher, we had a 5th grade teacher, we had a high school teacher. I mean, we had the, you know, the gamut, because we just wanted to see, can it work? And so you can see that we have a lot of demographics here. We have, you know, boys, and we had, you know, just a few students with autism, but we have, you know, 32 students with other special needs. We had 83 English language learners and 129 that would qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we're trying to hit all the different areas of, you know, understanding and friendships and building relationships. And so there were 4, well, first of all, so the teachers were able to, you know, watch the documentary, get a little support, and then you know, had like kind of check-ins throughout the year just to say, hey, you know, how are you doing? What kind of data do you have? Or, you know, what are the data that we're going to look at in a minute? And then how do we kind of connect it better or create new assignments? Or so the teachers kind of, you know, they use this as anchor text. You know, we kind of call that, like, the documentary is like the anchor text. Or, you know, some of the videos were kind of like the, you know, the basics, but then they were able to just expand, and it was really neat. They even came up with some lesson plans as well. But anyway, so we asked, so throughout all the classrooms, we asked 4 questions of the students. We said, who are your friends in the classroom? Who do you play with during recess? If your teacher is not around, who do you turn to for help on schoolwork? And if you're having a bad day, who do you talk to? And that was asked 3 times throughout the year. So in the beginning, kind of the year, the middle, and the end. And this is why this is so amazing. They did something where it's like social networking, and they looked at who were the names that everyone, and I'll show you a slide on that. Oh, well, down below, it's kind of hard to see, but here they are presenting it. And the really big pink dots you can see here, those are the names that kept coming up. And then you could see the ones on the outskirts. These are like, the kids that only have like one person even saying their name. So, and then we had it divided by, colors, with boys and girls, and then who were the special needs kids. And so through this, we were able to see and give feedback to the teachers then about who's connected and who's on the fringes and who doesn't seem to have a lot of connection. So it wound up being a really nice data point for us to, for the teachers to say, oh my goodness, what can I do to rope these guys in more? And what was really wonderful is that you can see the answer to the friends, who are your friends in the classroom, that increased a ton from the first, time of questioning to the second time of questioning. Recess went up again as well. And then that really continued. This kind of, didn't go too far, but the playing with friends at recess, it sounded like there was a lot more inclusivity and a lot more friendships happening and peer supports there as well. And then, but all of them had a good raise in this. If you're having a bad day, there were more people to talk to. There were people to ask for help about schoolwork. So that was really neat to see that the students were benefiting from it. But then the teachers did as well. So they really started feeling better about their confidence and their abilities to include children with different abilities. While the teachers are showing this, they're kind of learning along with the students. And because there's guidance in the curriculum, with suggested answers and prompts, they started feeling more comfortable as well. And so again, some of these are not special ed teachers. Some of these were, like, I think we had the middle school math teacher who, was so far away from, special ed, but total loved it, fell in love with the curriculum and really got excited about it. They all did. So, so we had a really nice, obviously this is really nice to see. So at the beginning, people were not feeling that great about it, maybe, a little bit about agree. And then at the end, we had agree and strongly agree, which is where we want to be. So that was really neat to spread that as well. And currently it's being used. University of Southern California is using it, and the School of Social Work. Point Loma Nazarene is using it in pre-service coursework for both future general and special educators. And we continue to get inquiries from school districts all around the country, and even in the county, we're sharing it. And we're still spreading the message of hope, love, friendship, and understanding. We were just able to make it digitally. So now, because of distance learning, that was one of our things. We're like, how do we get it out there? So now that is all, able to download. And so we're kind of excited about that. Although now that everyone's coming back to school, who knows what's going to happen next, but it's such a weird time. This is just another clip of one of the other films in like I said, there was 3, and this is With Me. So that was a neat part, without any words, we can see, what do we see here? We see, him hesitating, him wanting to be with friends, and then, ultimately being able to join in. So there's lots of different conversation starters that we can use. Students felt, there were some, qualitative kind of anecdotal things, and students really, appreciated it and kind of said, oh yeah, Terrence is kind of like me. One teacher wound up using it as like a whole, like they started really checking in with each other in the morning, and it turned into really deeper issues. Um, but great issues, but a lot of that social emotional things of like, how are you feeling? Who do we go to help? Like, so there was just a lot of really, magical things that came out of it that wasn't even in our purview when we started creating it.
Now, Grace, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have some of the teachers to report that as the year went on and their confidence built with their peers, that the teachers did report that their academics were
Yes.
improved?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was less anxiety, there was less fear. If you're worried if your friends like you or not, or if there's people in the classes, you're not paying attention to the curriculum. If you're, anxious about something and you don't know who to go for help, there's all of those other distractions on top of just creating a really nice community or social kind of support. So the benefits to this it was just really neat to see all of the great outcomes. So we just wanted to kind of share this. Oops, not this again, sorry. But we just wanted to kind of share this, this out because we have it and we're happy to come and, get it out there and spread it. We're really interested in spreading it around.
I'd like to add one thing. Grace, thank you. Therese, always thank you. This program is really important to me. As also a parent of a child on the spectrum, I can't think of anything I would have rather had for my child than people at school welcoming him. He had a couple friends, but to have a program like this that changes the culture of the school in a way that would be embracing of our kids would have meant the world to me back then, and would mean the world to many of the families I work with now. And it's so simple to implement. The lesson plans are laid out in a way that it's kind of obvious how you teach it, and even at different developmental levels, it's for K through 12, like I think Grace may have mentioned, or it's on one of those slides. It's really beautifully done, and I hope you'll consider trying it out, and anybody listening to this to contact us to talk about it. It can make a real difference for the kids with developmental challenges, and also for the kids who are around them and learning about how do you live in a world that's a diverse world, where we're taking care of each other as opposed to not taking care of each other. So I'm just so grateful that this was produced, and so happy to be part of the team that's presenting it.
Well, I think that it's very hard to follow, Dr. Fader, but one thing I would say is that, that really tugs at my heartstrings too, because, I had, the amazing gift of having Grace as a teacher in Terrence's life for 3 years. So I had someone who was already in the space to welcome something different and something new. But she has that sort of gift and also that skill base to be able to do that. But, for teachers who may not feel as confident about that, they might want to help, or they might want to embrace children who learn differently. They may not know exactly where to start. So I think that's one of the things about the curriculum. Like you said, Dr. Fader, I wouldn't say that I've ever seen anything like this. I would have loved to have had this maybe in later years in Terrence's schooling as well. But I think that anything that helps the environment, from the teachers to all the students and everyone in the environment, I think we've all learned a lot about isolation over the period of COVID. I think we've learned a lot about what it's like to kind of feel cut off. And I'm not saying that that is necessarily the experience of every child on the spectrum, or every, adult on the spectrum, but, we have sort of heard that at different times, that, it has been hard for people to make connections. And so that's sort of at the heart of this. And, creating a space where people don't feel welcome, you know, don't, you know, in their own school or in their own classroom, or they may feel like a stranger. And so this helps to decrease some of that. And I think that teacher you were talking about, Grace, who implemented the curriculum, I think she spent 5 minutes a day at the beginning of the day, kind of going through things. And yes, it did start off with our curriculum, and then it kind of, you know, kind of morphed into whatever was needed in the class at the time, but it started with our curriculum, and that the teacher would come back to it and maybe bring up other topics, but it sort of, it opened the kids up in a way that I think she said she hadn't experienced before. So anything that's going to increase people's confidence and the ability to feel welcome, especially now when kids are coming back to school. And, you know, I can only imagine what it's like for, you know, the kids, you know, who have social challenges, you know, whether they're on the spectrum or not. They've had so much time away from their peers. And so now they're going back, and I'm sure that there's going to be some need for assistance there, but hopefully our curriculum can help in some way.
You know, as I was watching the presentation, I had actually had an idea. Right now, you know, I have a lot of things going on, but part of what I want to do is um, kind of have a group at my daughter's school, or at the district level. I have a friend that was recently voted in as a board member, so I wanted to use that as my way to kind of get in and talk to her about special ed and just making it more inclusive, having maybe talks for parents how to use strategies to help their children in Spanish, because I mean, being in the South Bay, I come across many parents who are only Spanish speakers, and they're so limited with the resources. And I invite them to things like these, you know, the San Diego State stuff, and so most of them did not go to school in the United States, so they're unfamiliar with the school system. They're just uncomfortable, pretty much. And so I was thinking that in the future, that's what I want to focus on, is helping those parents with resources, and just having things for them to be able to, or strategies that they can use with their children. But also, my concern is my daughter is going to be mainstream. She's going to be in second grade next year. And so those were some of the things that you brought up in terms of other children not understanding her behaviors, or um, some of the things that she might say, or maybe they see her as being awkward. And so I don't think that there's that conversation, at least, you know, I know that in my classroom I do, because I run a club where we do things like this, but um, that's my concern. And I heard, you know, as parents of older children, how you wish that a program like this was around when your children were younger. And so I see this as an opportunity to perhaps being able to bring this into my daughter's school, elementary school district, because I see it as very powerful in allowing other children to just to embrace the differences, but also understand themselves, because a lot of them might be facing some issues, or they may see themselves as different, but they hide it because they feel that it's unacceptable in society, or at least in the classroom. So I was thinking about all that stuff as I was watching the presentation. So my question is, how would we be able to, if I were to want to bring it in to my daughter's elementary school district, how would I go about it? The nice thing is that I do have my friend, a good friend of mine that's now a board member. So I know that part of what she wants to do is really help students and parents in special ed. And of course, she, knowing my personal struggles with school, and I had to get an advocate, and just so many things that I've had to do. And I've been able to do them, you know, thankfully, because I'm a teacher, and I know the way things work, but then there's parents who don't. So she really wants to focus on that. And so I know that, I want to use her as my resource so I can try to make a difference. So I thought this would be great. And I was just wondering how I can do that to bring you in.
Well, I'm so excited to hear your enthusiasm. I mean, we share that already, but it's just nice to know, to feel it back because we know it's good.
Yeah.
Any one of us, but I would be very happy to somehow Zoom, if we could meet in person, whatever. I can bring the curriculum, I can show the board member, I can show the teacher. I'm happy to just provide overview or how to do it or tips. I mean, we're all in to help, but if just even getting it out there, this is a website, so they you can at least send the website and say, hey, this is what we're looking at, and any one of us would be happy to meet and share a little bit more and start the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we are available for follow-up questions too. So if you have questions, is that your little girl?
She's an only child, but recently we have a new member of our family. So I have to take care of this baby now. So I change her diaper. I have to feed her. So I have to care for her right now. So she brought her over.
Oh, that's awesome. I just put my email in the chat. So I'm actually at Point Loma Nazarene. So you can, get me there, or if you guys want to put your stuff in there as well in the chat.
And
Sure.
for someone who's maybe watching this later on, and especially if it's a parent who maybe doesn't have any connections to the school district at all, how could they reach out to you individually and maybe to make a plan of how they could talk to their teachers of their
Yes. I mean, true. That's what I did for after I left the classroom. I really was that extra kind of support. And, and I used to volunteer with the Autism Society and do a lot of their parent workshops, and anything we can do to help parents advocate. We know that's how most, good school changes happen is parents, pushing for things. So yeah. And teachers are happy to do it, and that's why, I mean, I know where we've been with teachers feeling, like, oh, one more curriculum, one more thing to do. Oh, now they're asking for this. And that's why we made it so flexible and so easy that, it doesn't, like you said, 5 minutes a day, it can work. So we're very happy to speak to any teachers, anyone, any parents, anyone. We would love to get it out there. We've done even like class-wide, didn't we? The documentary's been shown so many times, like they even did it at like a K-5 school, and just show the documentary to all of the students.
Yes, we did a presentation in Solana Beach. They brought all of their K-5 students into a giant auditorium, and we showed little snippets of the film, and then in between the snippets, we would do some question and answer. Terrence played his trombone. And afterwards, the kids wanted to come up and see the trombone and everything. And we had a little girl, very touching. I'll never forget it, but she came up and oh my gosh, she looked like maybe she was in 3rd grade or something. And she came up to us. It was me and Patrick Scott, the director producer, and she just walked up to us and she just told us what her disability was. And then Patrick had copies of the Bass Clef Bliss Terrence's Path film in a DVD cover, and he handed it to her, and she put it on her chest and she held it and she just turned and walked away.
Oh,
yeah, I will just never ever forget it. I didn't get to know her name, but all the kids were standing around, and I just thought it took so much courage. And I told her, you are very courageous for coming up here around all of your schoolmates and talking to us like that. I mean, that's just raw courage. We hide so much, we try to cover so many things sometimes to put on whatever face we think is needed. And when you're met with that much honesty and integrity and courage coming out of a little person, it does stop you in your tracks a little bit. So I'll always remember that. So we have a lot of great memories that I won't go into going down memory lane here for you, but we've had some wonderful experiences in the screenings that we've had.
Mhm. Well, I think, I don't know if we have any other questions.
Tara, did you have any questions?
Me? Sorry.
Mhm.
You say Sarah?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have any more questions. I mean, just on a personal level, like I'm really coming from a background where I don't have kids. I'm not in the school district at all. But it just redefining like what our paths to success looks like is so important to me. I personally am a high school dropout. You know, I felt that I went to UCLA, like I went on to get educated. It's cool. But, you know, I found my K through 12 experience very challenging. And I think there was a complete lack of empathy and compassion. And so a curriculum that's just so focused on emotional and social intelligence seems so important. I'm like shocked that this is the first time I'm learning of something like this. And I feel like our education systems are just desperate for this. And it's so cool. This is amazing. Yeah, so that's not a question, but this is cool and I'm really excited about it.
Well, you know, it's so interesting that you know, we have so many people when they're kind of seeing these stories, and like one of the other films that's in the curriculum is El Abuelo, and it's a fictional story, but it's a story of a nonverbal little boy on the spectrum who makes a friend, and an older man who could possibly be the age of his grandfather, and his friend is a migrant worker. And so this nonverbal young man forms a friendship, and basically, I mean, it's very powerful. I don't want to give it all away because hopefully you will see it, but it's like those types of moments, even though these films are short, like, you know, the documentary that focuses on Terrence is less than an hour long. The With Me, the one that shows the young man who he has a relationship with his service dog, and that allows him to bridge into having a friendship with the young girl that you see at the end of the film. So each one of these films does have an element of just stripping away kind of all the surface things that we don't really need, and sort of just getting to a deep sense of compassion and connection with each other. I think it's very needed, especially for young people. I mean, you're never too old to need it, but I think our schools, you know, could definitely benefit from that. So thanks for that.
Well, thank you guys all for coming and listening, and we're happy to continue conversations.
Yes, thank you so much, Tara, and your whole ATPF team. I don't have enough time to go into how fabulous all of you are. Thank you for having us. Thank you for everything that you do. And we are more than happy to, you know, collaborate with you in any way in the future.
Awesome. Thank you three so much. And Diana, so great that you showed up. And
Yes, thank you, Diana.
I'm excited I did, actually. I'm
yeah.
really glad I did, because this is exactly what I think, you know, I have been looking for. And so I'm definitely going to be in contact with all of you just to see what we can put together, because I'm really excited about this. I think it's a good opportunity for me to really start setting my plan in motion.
Yay.
That's great.
Exciting.
Have a great evening, you guys.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.